Hi everyone, my name is Lupe and today I will be discussing my site plan. Just as a disclaimer, I don't have PowerPoint, so I had to fidget with different tools in order to record this, so please just bear with me. All right. So for my presentation and my project, I decided to focus on the Charleston Commons, and this is right on the intersection of Charleston and Nellis. So the Charleston Commons in itself is a strip mall, but within the area that I looked at, which was about 1 mile radius in all directions, there are so many strip malls. You can do all sorts of things here. You have a Target, a Walmart, a 99-cent store, an Olive Garden. You can go get your medical needs with a Quick Care. There's so many different things here, and that is definitely a good building block, I believe. And besides that, though, it's mainly residential. There are schools, communities, churches, parks. It's largely residential besides that strip mall area. And just a personal observation that I have noticed is besides cars, I do see a lot of foot traffic surrounding the bus stops. So there are a lot of people going to the bus stops and using them, which is a good thing as well. All right, starting off with the bad. So some barriers that I noticed, or the one that was the most prominent to me, was the complete lack of bike lanes. I do live nearby this area, so I frequent this a lot, and I never notice. It's just something where if you're not looking for it, you're not going to find it. But even when I went looking for it, I did not find any bike lanes, and it was kind of shocking, kind of upsetting because it really discourages people from wanting to ride their bike, which might even be a better idea than driving your car. Another thing that I noticed are the high speed limits. Like I mentioned, this is highly residential, so it makes no sense to have high speed limits when we know that people aren't following the 45 mile an hour. They might be even going more. And we know with high speed limits, there is a lower chance of survival rate for pedestrian related accidents. Besides that, we do see 6 lanes of traffic in all directions. And it's just kind of a necessary. I know that there's that argument like, we add more lanes of traffic, we'll be able to push more traffic through, but that's not necessarily true. We add more lanes of traffic and more traffic's just going to find its way. So kind of unnecessary as well. Another thing I noticed is there's long distances between crosswalks. Let's say I'm directly across that Olive Garden. I want to go get lunch. I might have to walk half a mile, even more, to the nearest crosswalk, and then have to walk another half a mile just to get back to that Olive Garden. And it could really discourage me. It might even make me want to just drive there. It'll be quicker. But just food for thought, I guess. Last but not least, I did notice there is an unsafe atmosphere. Within the sidewalks, it can be a little uneven. You might see a little trash, graffiti, just an overall unsafe atmosphere in that area. All right, besides all the bad, I do still believe this is a really good building block for better streets. First and foremost, I did notice that there are vividly marked crosswalks. This is not 100% true as of right now because I do know that they're doing construction in that area, but for the most part, you can see the crosswalks, and that is definitely a good thing. Besides that, I have mentioned already, there are so many destinations nearby, and this gives people motivation or, a purpose to walk, a purpose to ride their bike because they have places to go to. Last but not least, there is a pedestrian bridge in that area, and the pedestrian bridge connects to trails, which can offer other forms of recreational activity. All right, so for my recommendations, I kind of broke it down into my top 4 and my bottom 4, and then later on I will be discussing the pricing. But first and foremost, I thought a road diet would be extremely important. As I mentioned, there is 6 lanes of traffic, and there are points in time when all those 6 lanes are being used, especially in the morning rush and the evening rush. But those are just 2 points in the day. In the entire day, there's so much unused space, and a road diet takes care of that because with that unused space, we can repurpose it, and we can add things like my second recommendation, bicycle lanes. Something that I learned during this process is that a lot of people argue, hey, we're going to be adding bicycle lanes, there's going to be more pedestrians, there's going to be more accidents. And that's not necessarily true because when we add those bicycle lanes, we are giving pedestrians and bicyclists their own space and they are no longer having to compete with cars. So it really has no negative effects on adding more, or I guess increasing the amount of accidents. And another idea is reducing speed limits. So I think this is definitely useful overall for that area because it is residential. And as I mentioned, with lower speed limits, if there is an accident, there's more chance of survival, which is extremely important. Last but not least, the addition of crosswalks. Referring back to my Olive Garden example, I think this would just make it more accessible for people to use that area instead of being discouraged to walk further distances. All right. And the other 4 recommendations that aren't super important but would be nice to see are possibly some pedestrian islands, especially in that Charleston and Nellis intersection. It just kind of gives pedestrians spaces in case they don't have enough time to cross when they're using that major crosswalk. Continuing on, I believe traffic calming streets can also be important because yes, I did say to reduce the speed limit, but that doesn't necessarily mean that people are still going to follow it. But with traffic calming strips, it gives the driver a different perception of the street and can help lower their speed limit subconsciously. The other last 2 recommendations I kind of want to join together because it really focuses on the environment itself. The first one is the renovation of the sidewalks. As I mentioned, the sidewalks aren't completely flat. There are some bumps, and it kind of might discourage some people who are walking and maybe have strollers with them or anything of that nature. Also, the addition of bicycle storage facilities in the nearby strip malls. Because, you know, let's say I want to ride my bike to Walmart, how will I know that there's going to be a space for my bike at Walmart, you know? So just some things that I think would be important. All right, so now this is a table summarizing the costs based on priority level. I do believe the road diet is the most important and it is also the most costly. But besides that, another really high cost one would be the pedestrian islands and the bike lanes. Now, the bike lanes might not be as costly because they do kind of tie into the road diet. Again, these are all just estimates. I just kind of went with the highest estimate that I thought, but it really does matter based on miles, square footage. So again, just take this with a grain of salt, but this is what I came up with. All right. And now for my assessment plan, I thought it would be a really good idea to have pre and post renovation surveys for the residents nearby. Those are the people that are going to be using the area most frequently, so it's nice to get their opinions and to see what they believe about the area. Also, I think it'd be cool to have pedestrian counters near crosswalks. That might not be 100% accurate, so I also thought of installing traffic cameras and having someone audit them to see if there's a change in traffic flow and if there's a change in the amount of pedestrians we see. All right. So last but not least, just to kind of summarize this project, I really do think with evidence-based interventions and just a little bit of community support, maybe some political support in that area, we can really revamp our streets. We can make those happy and healthier streets. We might not be New Amsterdam, we might not be Portland, but we still have a lot of good things in Las Vegas that we can change, and we can get there if we want to, you know? It just takes a lot of willpower, but I do believe. All right, but that is my presentation. If y'all have any questions, please let me know. If not, thank you so much for listening.